Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study of paper 47, The Seven Mansion Worlds. I believe it's 47, isn't it? And we're in section 2, the probationary nursery. Tonight we're going to start from there. And if you were looking for a video for last week, we don't have one for last week. The storms kind of knocked us out. Last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, right.
Yeah, the storms knocked us out, so we don't have a video for last Tuesday. But we all had a good time on Tuesday. We stuck around and talked and didn't record it. So
yeah,
there's no Tuesday recording out there. So we'll go on with this Thursday's recording. All right, let's have a little prayer and then we'll get started. Father, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share this revelation with all the world. And we thank you for this group that comes together, and we thank you for all the individuals that listen to us at home and each week and benefit from these meetings. And we pray that you'll watch over us tonight, open our hearts and minds that we might remember a little bit of it and share it with others. We thank you for everything you do for us and you've done for us in the past. We say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
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 And Diane, you want to start us out again?
To the probationary nursery. The infant receiving schools of Satania are situated on the Finaleter world, the first of the Jerusalem transition culture spheres. These infant receiving schools are enterprises devoted to the nurture and training of the children of time, including those who have died on the evolutionary worlds of space before the acquirement of individual status on the universe records. In the event of the survival of either or both of such a child's parents, the guardian of destiny deputizes her associated cherubim as the custodian of the child's potential identity, charging the cherubim with the responsibility of delivering this undeveloped soul into the hands of the mansion world teachers in the probationary nurseries of the Urantia worlds.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit not last time, the meeting before last, about the children of time who died before reaching the acquirement of individual status. What are they talking about there? They're talking about before they get a thought adjuster and they have officially become an individual of status because they've been assigned a thought adjuster. So any child that dies before that time, back to, I guess, conception, is eligible for what we're talking about here. All right, if either child's parents survive, they can help raise that child. Now, the interesting part about this is this. It talks about the associated cherubim. We know that when we get our thought adjusters and we reach the third psychic circle, we get assigned 2 seraphim, don't we? But we also get assigned a cherubim and a sanobim, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time. That was the thing I couldn't remember the other night, sanobim, right? So we get assigned a cherubim and a sanobim, and the cherubim also help keep charge of the mental records of every single person. So if both seraphim are recharging or do whatever they do to recharge their energies, the cherubim can take over and record everything that happens with that individual. Now, interesting part about that is this: who else also has memory transcripts? And this is very important. Remember the Archangel of the Resurrection? Remember that term? Okay. The Archangel of the Resurrection, being an archangel, is one of the most powerful angels in the local universe. Okay. The archangels are actually assigned to a creator son when he first goes to his new local universe. And it's the archangels that help in the administration of the local universe and setting up everything that needs to be set up to the time when Jesus or Michael And the creative mother spirit starts creating all the many, many angels in his charge, right? So the archangel of the resurrection gets a copy of every single being that dies memory patterns. Okay. Now, why is this so important? You know, I told Diane I was trying to get a nap this afternoon and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get the archangel of the resurrection off my mind. Why is the archangel of the resurrection so important? If for any reason your seraphim rebels, like many seraphim did during the Lucifer rebellion, remember that? Many of them rebelled. So the records of all those beings that those seraphim were in charge of automatically goes to whom? The archangel of the resurrection. So there's a duplicate copy of everything that happens to you with the archangel of the resurrection. And that is the reason that when you wake up on the mansion world, who is there? The seraphim, the thought adjuster, and who else? The archangel of the resurrection, to make sure your transcripts of your memory patterns are in order. Okay. Another interesting person that's there when you wake up is what? Y'all remember this? How about the beings that implant life? The life carriers. Yeah. There's a life carrier at your awakening on the mansion worlds. Yeah. So there's really 4 beings that have to be present, right? The thought adjuster, the archangel of the resurrection, the seraphim, and whom? The life carrier. That's right. The life carrier. Huh?
We did mention the life carrier.
Yes.
Life carriers, thought adjuster, the seraphim,
and the archangel of the resurrection.
Of resurrection.
Right. Okay. Just want to make sure we were clear on that. That's why this is so important. Now, it says here in this paragraph that the seraphim, the destiny guardians, what they're talking about there is the seraphim, right? Deputizes her cherubim to take custody of the child's potential identity. You see that? The potential identity, with charging the cherubim with the responsibility of delivering this undeveloped soul. You see that? Into the hand of the mansion world teachers of the probation and nurseries of the Urantia worlds. So it's interesting that they consider these children, even before they get thought adjusters, what? Undeveloped souls, right? And they have potential identity. Now, when do they really get identity?
When the thought adjuster.
Thought adjuster.
When the thought adjuster comes, right? So this is pre-thought adjuster, and up to that point, they're considered wards of their parents, but they're also always considered undeveloped souls because they haven't had what? A chance to develop their own soul and personality. Got that? So even beings from the time of birth, or even probably before birth, have a potential identity according to the universe. That's why this is so important. That's why I wanted to beat this to death tonight, right? Okay. Let's go on to the next paragraph.
Roger?
Yeah.
Before we go on,
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Go right ahead, Rodney.
One is, can you pull this down a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Went a little bit too far. Okay.
Yeah.
The evolutionary worlds, no wait, devoted to the nature and training of the children of time,
Right.
including those that have died on evolutionary worlds.
Right.
What other children of time are they talking about?
Well, they could be talking about children on planets that have already reached light and life or something along that line. Okay, so those worlds would not be as evolutionary as other worlds would be because they would be settled, right? If a planet was settled in light and life, their evolution is pretty much what? Over, right? Because they've
Over.
evolved to the point of light and life, and that's the goal for all planets, right? So you consider them not really evolutionary worlds if you wanted to. Okay, not like we are. You know, we're in chaos all the time, so we're evolving daily. You know.
Okay, I was
sometimes
thinking maybe,
hourly.
what's that other, it's not immortal, but what other creatures are out here?
You mean talk about
Midwayers.
midwayers or sporanga?
No, the other children of time that we don't know much about.
Oh, you
They're
mean
like
like other creatures they don't really tell us a whole lot about?
Yeah,
That's not in the personality register. You know, remember from paper, what is it, 31? The personality register tells us all the evolutionary personalities, you know, in our local universe. But they mentioned there's millions of other types of beings on planets that are not categorized with us. They're not part of the ascension plan. So there could be children of those too. And they could be talking about material sons and daughters children, if you think
I
about it.
think, is it the Midsonites?
The Midsonites, that's a possibility. Right. Yep.
My
We
other
don't know a
question,
lot about Midsonites other than they're not mortal and they're not spirits yet. Right.
so they're not children of time.
They're not really children of time. They are children of the universe, but not children of time, because you think about it, Midsonites don't recognize time and space as we do. They're in a totally different dimension.
That's what I
So,
thought.
yeah, so they would not be considered children of time if you think about it.
And then my other question or comment was about the undeveloped soul.
Right.
I was under the impression that once we're born, until we receive a thought adjuster, our soul is not born.
Well, it's in an embryonic state from birth, I think, Rodney. It'd be a
Well, it
closer
must be.
yeah,
That's
it'd be a
what
closer
it's,
statement. Yeah.
that's what it's telling us there.
Yeah. It's an embryo of a soul waiting to start its existence upon receiving the thought adjuster. But even then, it's still in an embryonic state pretty much through life, in the entire first life, right? Because our real life starts when we die.
Next world.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to the mansion worlds, right?
How about children that somehow don't even make it to birth?
Well, you could consider those in more of an embryonic state too now. There's a big question here, Bill, which I can't answer, okay? And that is this. The Urantia book states you're registered as a sanctioned being at birth. That's what it says, right? But we know life begins at conception, don't we?
That's right.
So, and we know that for a fact because of what?
Because
Mary.
of the announcement of Mary.
That's right. So that's why we know that. Okay, so we know that at conception, the universe knows that there's a baby coming, period.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any way you look at it. Oh, so you could consider, you know, you could argue about this all day long, whether a sanctioned being is at birth or is a sanctioned being at conception. According to the book, it states that a sanctioned being, a human being, is a being at birth, right? Until then, it actually says this, the baby is a parasite on her mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the reasons here, if you read in this paragraph, the mother, the child's future does not kick in until the death of one of the parents, right? And they appear on the mansion worlds because the baby is attached to the parents. Makes
Mhm.
sense? All right. If
What?
that's the,
No. You mean, so the baby, even after birth, is,
still attached to the parents till age, until they reach thought adjuster age, Gary.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thought adjuster age,
Right.
whatever, 4, 6, something
That-
like that.
Yeah, that would include miscarriages, right? Or babies that died before they got to that age, right?
So
All
they
those
would-
babies would still considered part of the family of the mother and father that created
Women
them.
do feel that way when they have miscarriages. that
Yeah.
Babies. are part of their life.
So they would be, so like, children, well, what about abortions?
That's a big question, Gary. You know, what about abortions? Because you
Is
take
that a
something
child
that's a
attached to the,
mother, yes.
Still
is.
so,
attached
And
to the
father.
mother, still
And not
attached
just
to
the mother,
parent.
but the father is also.
Right.
So when that baby is aborted, okay, it's not only the decision of the mother. If the mother does this singly on one side, and does not tell her husband, okay, that baby is still attached to the mother and the father. And the first one that gets to the mansion worlds has the choice to raise the baby. Okay, so all these men that's gotten women pregnant that wanted kids that never got them may have a choice when they get to the mansion world to raise that aborted baby. I don't know. This
what
is
about
a
all those men
speculation.
that had all those kids that didn't want the kids?
The same thing.
And they get to the mansion world saying, holy mackerel, what did I do?
That's right. Yeah. What's that old saying? You pay for your sins, right? Either in this life or the next. So you don't get away with anything in life. There is no free ride, period. I don't care what people tell you. There's no such thing as not paying for your sins. You do in one way or another, right? So that's the name of the game. And that's the way I understand it. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, you know. I want to
It makes
state that
sense.
up
It's
front.
logical Because it's not a baby's fault if he or he is aborted.
No.
Or if it was a miscarriage. And
Yeah.
that would be a punishment to us for not, being able to.
Turn on your mic, Lisa.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, it would be very painful to think that you can't ever see the baby that wasn't born, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And women that have miscarriages, I know, I mean, my mother always included my brother's twin sister as part of our family, and she,
Yeah.
you know, and it just,
Yeah.
I know a lot of other women that feel that way too.
You know, what it boils down to is this: you can't change what is, right? It comes back to God saying, I am that I am. There is no explanation of the I am, is there? He just is. He's like nothing else in the universe. He always will be nothing else like nothing else in the universe. So he is. And once you create life, it is. Does that make sense? All right. And that's the way I understand it. Now, I can be wrong. You can't take that to the bank, but that's the way I feel about it. Okay, so let's move on to the next paragraph. Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. It is these same deserted cherubim who, as mansion world teachers, under the supervision of the Melchizedeks, maintain such extensive educational facilities for the training of the probationary wards of the Finaleters. These wards of the Finaleters, infants of ascending mortals, are always personalized as their exact physical status at the time of death, except for reproduction potential. This awakening occurs at the exact time of the parental arrival on the first mansion world. And then are these children given every opportunity, as they are, to choose the heavenly way, just as they would have made such a choice on the worlds where death is so untimely terminated their careers.
Okay, there's a couple things we need to explain in this paragraph. First, it's talking about the deserted cherubim. Do y'all understand what they're talking about there? When you die,
No,
go ahead, Billy.
I didn't understand why they called them deserted cherubim.
Well, I'm going to explain it right now. The deserted cherubim, when you die, both your guardian angels, both your seraphim goes with you to the mansion worlds, right? The cherubim that's assigned to you do not go with you to the mansion worlds. That's why they're called deserted cherubim, okay? They are left on the planet for one of two things. One, they can be reassigned to another being, okay? Or two, they can go on to the mansion world as mansion world teachers, okay? That's their choice. So that's what they're talking about, the deserted cherubim. These are the cherubim who are deserted when you die. They're left here on the planet, okay? You don't take them with you. All right, so they can enroll as mansion world teachers because they have all this experience taking care of you, taking care of children, taking care of multiple people, this sort of thing. And they are trained by the Melchizedek or supervised by the Melchizedek, and they become the probationary wards of the Finaleters that take care of the babies that come in. Okay, that's their job. All right. And that's what they're talking about. These wards of Finaleters, these infants of ascending mortals are personalized in the exact physical status as they were when they died, except for reproductive potential. So when they're brought back alive on the mansion worlds, they cannot reproduce like they could have if they'd grown up on the planet. Okay, so they become sterile when they're reawakened. Other than that, they go on just as they would have if they've been born on this planet. Okay, they go through a normal life. They're trained by the cherubim, the mansion world teachers. The Sporanja takes care of them. We come into
Sounds like it might be a better deal.
yeah, really, because we help train them, help with their education, and try to convince them that they want to choose the heavenly way, right? What's the heavenly way? The heavenly way is the choice of survival.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, just like on this planet, those children can make the choice of survival at any time, from the time they get their thought adjuster till the very last minute of life. Okay. 80 or 90 years old. That's my package coming here that I'm expecting. So these children can make the choice anytime during their life, but they have to make their choice by about age 16 on the Finaleter world. If they choose not to survive, what happens? They cease
They're
to
gone.
exist. They're gone. That's right.
That's it.
That's it.
So they
Right.
either grow old and die,
Yes.
or they fuse.
Well, they don't
that
grow
world.
old and die though, Rodney. They only allow them to, they have to make a choice by about the age 16.
Ask
I
you a
mean, what I
question.
mean is,
Go ahead.
so they're not immortal, they're
They're not immortal. They're mortal.
Urantia.
Yeah, they're Morantia, but
Baby.
they're more like a Morantia mortal baby, right? Because they take up exactly like they were here. When they wake up, they don't know that they're not immortal. Okay? They think they're immortal. They act like mortals. They're just like children are on this planet without the reproductive potential. They can't reproduce. So when they get 13, they don't get pregnant.
Yeah. Question.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah, Bill.
Do they still have gender?
Yes. Yeah.
So you still
They-
have male and female?
You still have male and female. They
Female.
probably still have genitals just like they would on this planet. Okay, they would not know any difference than being on this planet.
Because
Okay,
the genitals, besides having, reproductive capability, they also act as body waste eliminators.
that's right. Now,
So,
the
but we're
difference
not
is
going to have
with
any
the
waste
children-
elimination.
well, we don't know with the children whether they have waste elimination or not, Bill, for sure. Okay, they don't tell us that. So if they're more along the line of Urantia beings, that would be the case. But if they're not, they would have normal genitals just like we would. Now, interesting part of this is this. Think about this. They're children, right? But as they get older and they go into puberty, okay, they have to understand the fact of sexual reproduction, okay? This is a requirement even for human beings. When you get to the first mansion world, one of the problems that we have to work out is many people never have a normal sex life, okay? So they have to gain experience about a normal sex life by observing material sons and daughters and their children, okay? It sounds weird, but it's part of the experiential part of growing, okay? So if you never had, let's say you became a priest at 18 and you decided never to have sex and never had a normal sex life, what are you going to have to do when you get to the mansion worlds? You're going to have to experience a normal sex life with someone who has had one and experienced that. Now, this is a real problem because many people, even though they're married, still never have a normal sex life. All right. And that's something they need to understand. And that's where the material sons and daughters comes in to train them. Got that? That's why Adam and Eve's are so important on the planet, because all these things that we have missed and screwed up on our planet, they would have taught us. Okay, they would be the teachers of us and in having normal sex lives. Okay, and that starts at somewhere between age 13 and age 16. All right, that's why when we get, because these babies can't reproduce, they don't have reproductive possibilities. By the time they're 16, they need to decide if they want to go on with their ascension plan. And at 16, then they would go where? The first mansion world. Got that?
Okay.
It's a normal progression.
I have a question. It's probably basic. If a person commits suicide in this world, is that the equivalent of tapping out, of not going forward?
Gary, that's an excellent question. And it depends on their motives, okay, for the suicide. It really does. We know that if you give your life up for another human being, in other words, you're in a situation where you die in place of another, that's the greatest sacrifice you can give to another human being. You could consider that suicide, but it's really not suicide in a sense, right? But I have always felt, and Diane hates it when I say this, I know this. I have always felt that if you just make a final decision in this life and you tap out of this life, you will not wake up on the mansion worlds. If it's a selfish decision. You see what I'm saying?
Selfish.
Okay.
Depends on your motive.
Because, Roger,
Yeah.
when those people were jumping off the Twin Towers, I really had to think about that. It was suicide.
It was suicide, but it
But
wasn't.
it would have been suicide to stay in the building as well.
That's right, Rodney. That is not what I would consider a life, a
Well, of
permanent
course
life
not.
decision, right?
But you need to think also, actually, it was the same with Jesus, because
Yep.
he knew he was going to die if he
He knew he was
went
going
to
to die.
Jerusalem.
That's right.
That's a form of suicide.
Yeah, if you
I
think
mean-
about, yeah, that's why I'm saying it depends on your motive,
Right.
right? That's what it all boils down to. But back to Gary's question, if you make a selfish decision that you want to end this life, you don't want to go on, they tell us in the book, if you don't want to go on, you will not go on, right?
Well, the thing is, what
That's
about,
what survival is all about. You have to make that survival decision.
well, it's like Rodney said, there's certain things that happen. It's like, that's what scares me so much about young children, getting into drugs, is because that becomes a suicidal thing. Every time you take that action.
Well, that is a really stupid, bad decision, right?
Well, yeah, I agree it is.
It
but
is,
they're
but
young.
that's what I'm saying, Diane. It depends on your motives
Okay.
at the time, right? And who can determine that? We can't, right? None of us can. Only God the Father and only the Ancients of Days can make that decision, right?
I don't
But
think.
I got a question.
I don't think anybody in a stable mind would commit suicide. They're not in their right
No.
mind.
No, they're not, Millie. I've always felt the same way. If you are thinking about suicide, you are a sick individual. You need help, right?
Yeah.
You need mental health. That's what it's about.
Yes.
But
And there's people, there's all sorts of situations you can list on situations all night long about people terminally ill. They don't put a burden on their family and all this different stuff. Those are different motives, right? And that's why I'm saying it depends on your motive. But to be honest with you, I always come back to Jesus, right? Think of the suffering Jesus endured, all right, on the cross. If he is willing to go through that suffering, there is nothing in hell or on earth that I feel like I would not go through to keep from killing myself, right?
Got a question now
Because
as you
he's our
bring that
example.
up.
Yeah,
I
But,
just I have a friend that just pulled the plug on his wife.
right. That's different though, Gary.
They had pre-discussed this
Yeah,
and they
Mhm.
made a decision. And the circumstances was there, so he pulled the plug.
right.
So is that a terminal suicide or is that a go on suicide?
That would be a go on suicide as far as I'm concerned, Gary. Because
Um,
why? Because why would that be? It would be your motive, right? She
right.
don't want to continue to suffer. She don't want to continue to cause pain to her family, that sort of thing, and it's not considered murder if he did that because he is assisting her and in fulfilling her wishes, right? And I believe that sooner or later, someday on this planet, it'll get to the point where you will be able to decide whether you want to continue on if you're terminally ill, right?
That's
So,
that's my question is about. Okay, let's say that your body turns against you, and you cannot make your body do what you want it to do.
uh-huh.
Okay, that conditions come up that will make you sick all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you're constantly
Parkinson's.
illness,
Well, there's lots of illnesses.
Parkinson's, or
Yeah.
you're on medications that gives you constant diarrhea, like you're tied to a toilet, so to speak.
Well, Bill, I think over time, society will make decisions on what's allowable and what's not. And I think the celestial authorities will go along with whichever decisions that we make as a group. Okay, because remember when Jesus, I always come back to Jesus. Remember when Jesus went and visited the prison and he talked to the guy that was going to die on the cross, basically. And he told him, he said, your peers have judged you guilty of the crime that you committed. He murdered someone. And so you have to pay the penalty of this. It's a societal thing. So, and he told him, sit there and told him that he could survive past this world if he had faith, right? Remember that? So
Mhm.
it boils down to this, what your motives are on all these things and what society deems appropriate. I think the celestial authorities will go along with. So if we eventually legalize euthanasia, then the celestial authorities will probably follow suit in allowing us to do that. You follow me? Because it's a group decision. It's not a single decision. Whenever you have a group decision, remember when 3 or more people gather together, their spiritual power quadruples, it multiplies, right? And it's the same thing with decisions. That's why we have courts. That's why it takes 12 people to make a decision on a jury. And even though many times they're totally wrong, they still have tried to make the best decision, right? That's the whole point. And the celestial world works the same thing, same way. No decisions ever made where at least 3 beings don't agree with it. That's why there's 3 ancients of days, right? So, okay, we got way off course here. It was interesting. All right. So we talked about the children making the choice, right? When they choose the heavenly way, they can do that at any time from the time they wake up till the time they're 16. Sooner or later, they have to make that choice. They don't have a choice to make that choice. They have to make that choice sooner or later. Okay. And if they choose not to survive, it's just like on this planet. If you choose on this planet, you make a final choice that you don't want to go to the mansion worlds, you won't wake up and go to the mansion worlds, right? That's what they call, why they call it faith. All right, let's go on to the next one. Whew, boy, we beat that to death, didn't we? Bill, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. On the nursery world, probationary creatures are grouped according to whether or not they have adjusters. For the adjusters come to indwell these material children just as on the worlds of time. Children of pre-adjuster ages are cared for in families of 5, ranging in ages from 1 year and under up to approximately 5 years, or that age when the adjuster arrives.
Okay, so these children are grouped in as probationary nurseries in groups of 5, right? If they're under 5 years old, they live in a group together on this Finaleters world, right? And that's how they're taken care of until they receive their adjusters. Now, when they get their adjusters, okay, they move on to a different family. Okay, another family of 5 with the material sons and daughters, and that's the picture of coming up there. All right, that's this one here. Okay, so this is them in the probationary nursery. They're cared for by a material son and daughter or a family. Just like a normal family, they're in groups of 5 under the age of 5. All right, let's move on to the next one. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. All children on the evolving worlds who have thought adjusters, but who before death had not made a choice concerning the paradise career, are also repersonalized on the Finaleters world of the system, where they likewise grow up in the families of the material sons and their associates, as do those little ones who arrived without adjusters, but who will subsequently receive the mystery monitors after attaining the requisite age of mortal choice.
So they'll get a thought adjuster just like a normal child on this planet around the age of 5 or a little bit older. Okay. Now let's go on to the next one.
I got a question.
Yeah.
This makes it sound like that the children are in nurseries.
Well, no, they're living with families, Bill.
They're living with families.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
Now, what
husband
about
and
the
a wife
what,
and 5 children, right?
now what about the wife? I mean, the parents of these children.
The
I mean-
parents of these children are allowed to come and monitor and visit these children 4 times a year. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so they're really in the charge of the cherubim or the material sons and daughters, the couple, right, or both, really. And so when you're not there, you're still on the mansion world. You're on the first mansion world when you get there.
mhm.
So you have to go travel to the Finaleter world to visit with your children, and you get to visit with them and train them and teach them and that sort of thing 4 times a year. All right.
Well,
In between the material sons and daughters and the cherubim and their spermasia, those are beings that are training your children constantly when you're away doing your business on mansion world number 1. You follow me? So you're not there all the time. That's what the material sons and daughters do. They're there all the time with it, right? So they live in a group family. All right. They do that both up till 5, and then when they get their thought adjuster, they're moved to another family from age 6 to 14 to 16, where they live in another family of like age children.
Okay. Now, the question is, though, we are supposed to have raised at least 3 children from birth up until the age of, of
16.
maturity.
Yes.
Okay. How do we do that if our children are being raised by other?
Well, no, they're
families?
not being raised, but you are responsible for the decisions of raising them in these families, in these group families. Okay, so it's not like you don't have any say in the matter at all.
Yeah, but it's
Mhm.
not like a real family. I mean,
Well, we
Got a
don't know that. We're
We don't
talking,
know this, yeah, we don't know the circumstances.
we don't
but
know the
really you have to-
circumstances.
and when you're raising children, you have to be with the children.
Right.
That's
You know, I don't
right.
understand that concept of, not, that's very confusing.
It
actually.
is,
Mhm.
but they apparently have worked it out where it's best for the children and best for the parents. Right.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
If we're required to raise 3 children as
Right.
our experience,
Yes.
what happens when you adopt?
That's raising a child.
No, not necessarily.
Yes, it is.
I
If
adopted
you
2. Let me explain. I adopted 2.
right.
Okay, age 2 and 3. Do I have to make up for those 2 and 3, those ages 2 and 3 that I didn't raise them?
No. You adopted that child at 2 or 3 and kept that child until they were adulthood, right, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's considered raising those 2 children.
So I don't have to make up.
You don't have to make up for that, no.
I
Now,
got
who
a
makes
leg
that
up
dec-
by 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, you don't. And who decides that? The 12 couples that decides on whether you've reached your parental responsibility requirements. Okay, so that you should be good. If you raise 2, did you have any of your own, Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, you're covered. You're good to go. You probably won't ever have to raise another one.
I
Unless
should
you-
get a gold star.
You get a gold star.
Right.
Now, I say that, Gary, but there's a monkey wrench I'm going to throw in this. If you went out and had babies with somebody else before you got married and you didn't take the responsibility for that baby, you still may be responsible for raising one.
I am safe.
Okay, so that's the way it works. If you play, you pay, as they say. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Jane, will you take the next one, please?
Okay. Is it the adjuster?
The
indwelt?
adjuster indwelt children, right?
Yeah, the adjuster indwelt children and youths on the Finaleter world are also reared in families of 5, ranging in ages from 6 to 14, approximately. These families consist of children whose ages are 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. Anytime after 16, if final choice has been made, they translate to the first mentioned world and begin their paradise ascent. Some make a choice before this age and go on to the ascension spheres, but very few children under 16 years of age, as reckoned by Urantia standards, will be found on the mentioned worlds.
Okay, so when these children make their decision, they go on to the first mansion world, just like we do, right?
They need the 16 years.
Yeah, they need the 16 years to gain experience and that sort of thing. Now, here's a picture of 5 children from age 5 up to 14 that's living with another couple, right? And that's the way it works. Now, while they're living with these couples, you still go have responsibility to go help raise them, visit them 4 times a year, make sure they're educated properly. Now, why would this be the case? It's because they want you to have the experience to train these children in the concepts of the paradise ascension. Okay, so it's your responsibility to train them, to want them to go on and become paradise citizens sooner or later. You follow me?
Yeah. I guess in a way, well, first of all, I think this is living proof, Gary, that adoption is acknowledged because they're not with their parents here. Like there are 5 children being looked after by not their parents.
Right.
That's a good example. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And the other thing that comes to my mind here, let's say, you know, I had one child that I didn't get to raise. And then if I was to look after that child, it's not going to be in a family atmosphere.
Right.
Because I have one, someone else might have one, and it would be complete, what's that word, pandemonium.
Uh-huh.
You know, if every parent's going to take that one child or 2 that they didn't get to raise.
Right.
And they wouldn't be in the family setting.
And that's why they put them in these groups of 5,
Or
Jane.
5, it's a perfect family setting.
It's a family setting, and then you would be the quote outside parent coming in and making
As a
sure
counselor, loving
as a
them.
counselor, right, as a counselor, making sure that they're trained properly, making sure they understand the ascension plan, making sure they're taught religious values the way you want them to be taught. Okay, they're taught all these things automatically, but your spin on things is different than a cherubim or a material son and daughter or any of these people taking care of these children would be. There's nothing like a real parent to give you their concept of reality, right?
Yeah, and Roger, would choosing the different ages,
Yeah.
you know, is that kind of to make it an ideal? Is there no sibling rivalry then? Like, is that an ideal non-competitive family?
I think they do that, Jane, so that all the children will have the opportunity of having an older brother and a younger brother, or an older sister and a younger sister. So it's like a real family, because you don't normally have 5 kids at the same time, all the same age, right?
True, but close usually, yeah.
It'd be more like a real family if they have some age difference between each one. And that way the children can teach each other also, right?
Mhm.
You can't forget how much a child teaches his older brother and his younger brother, or older sister and younger sister, certain concepts, right?
True. Yeah.
Because they're living in the same house. Okay. So,
Roger,
yeah.
the last section that we read, it says that they're once before going to the mansion world number 1, they're translated.
Right.
What does that mean?
They're translated from mortal beings to Urantia beings, Rodney.
So then if they were a girl or a guy, they just end up being you don't have sexes on the first world.
No, no, no.
Only
That's
the
over before
nursery.
you get there. Yeah, yeah, only in the nursery. And they don't, how that is done and taught, I have no idea. I really don't. Because we do it through observation. If we get to the first mentioned world, then we do it through observation. And that's usually on Jerusalem with a material son and daughter's family.
Will they explain this when we get there?
Yes, they
Okay.
will. Yeah, they will.
I have a
That's what
question. When the
yeah.
family has a 16-year-old and he moves off because he's past 16, do
Right.
they have another 6-year-old on the other end?
Yes.
So the
That's what
family stays.
Yeah, the family always stays 5, Millie. So if
Okay.
one leaves, another one comes in its place. Right? All right, so
Good.
it always
It makes
stays
it makes it
5.
sound like though that these 5 being raised by these other parents makes it sound like it's a divorce type of situation.
Not
Where
really.
the one parent is not there to, do the day-to-day relationship. Okay.
No, that's the responsibility of the material son and daughter, Bill. It really is. See, they get the benefit of a real parent situation with the material son and daughter because they're just like they are. In other words, the material sons and daughters are material beings just like we are. Okay. And the babies are material beings just like we are. Okay. It's when they get translated, they become Urantia beings.
It feels like a perfect foster family.
It is. That's what it's supposed to be. Right. And we get the opportunity to give input into how these children are raised. Right. And by doing that, we get retrained in how to do it properly.
Yes. And you know what? That kind of happens because we live in a very imperfect world.
Yeah.
Here. But the intention is that with a foster family, it should not be a forever. It should be while the parent is getting help.
Yes.
And, in a perfect situation, the children do grow up and are fostered.
Well, I have a friend who has raised 16 children in his life. 16. He had 2 of his own children, and then he raised 14 more.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
He's a precious man.
he is. And, so he's gained experience upon experience, but he loves these children just as if they were his.
Of course,
from the
yeah.
beginning. So, so it's possible. All right, let's move on to the next one. Gary, would you take the next paragraph, please?
The one that starts with guardian seraphims.
Right.
The guardian seraphim attend these youths in the probationary nursery on the Finaleters world, just as they spiritually minister to mortals on the evolutionary worlds. While the faithful
Spurnasia
minister to their physical necessities, and so do these children grow up on the transit world until such time as they make their final choice.
It's pretty simple, isn't it? So the seraphim attend to these children just like they do on our planet. They don't see them. Okay. They don't see the seraphim because they're mortals. All right. And the seraphim's outside their sight range, but they do see the Spurnasia. They see the material sons and daughters. Right. All right. Well, we just barely going to get to a section this week. Sweetie, would you take the next one?
It's very personal.
Yeah.
When material life has run its course, if no choice has been made for the ascendant
If
life.
no choice.
I'm going to start over.
What did I say?
Yeah, if their choice has been made.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big difference.
Start all over.
You need to unmute too, dear, because they can't hear you.
Okay, we're good. When material life has run its course, if no choice has been made for the ascendant life, or if these children of time definitely decide against a Havona adventure, death automatically terminates their probationary careers. How sad. There is no adjudication of such cases. There is no resurrection from such a second death. They simply become as though they had not been.
Okay, so that's the explanation right there, right? If they don't choose the heavenly career, if they don't choose the ascension plan, they die just like they did on the first death, but they come as if they had never been, because there's no adjudication. They'd already died once, right? As a physical being on this planet. Okay, so the second death is permanent if they have not chosen the heavenly career. Makes sense?
Yes.
But if they have chosen,
Then they
they
get
don't die.
they get translated from mortal.
Translated.
Yeah, they get translated from mortal to Urantia, right? So in essence, they die a second time, don't they?
They get to die twice.
They get to die twice.
Well, I guess
but they
that's
don't. They're
why-
not conscious of the second death.
No, that's
Right.
why translated really does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's a perfect word because
Yeah.
they have died already on this planet.
Right. They've had the experience of death. That's the
Of
big
death.
experience,
But
right?
so, yeah,
Right.
but they're translated and there is a chance they may not be.
Right. Now, one of the important points of this is this too. Remember, Jesus he did not have to die on the cross, right? People get upset when I say that, but he did not have to die on the cross. He had to die, though. He had to go through the experience of death, just like we do. Okay, just like we do. That's the important point. All right, so let's get one more paragraph in here, even though we're going to go over just a bit here. Millie, would you take the last paragraph?
Yes, yes. But if they choose the paradise path of perfection, they are immediately made ready for translation to the first mentioned world, where many of them arrive in time to join their parents in the Havona ascent. After passing through Havona and attaining the deities, these salvaged souls of mortal origin constitute the permanent ascendant citizenship of paradise. These children who have been deprived of the valuable and essential evolutionary experience on the world of mortal nativity are not mustered into the core of the finality.
Okay, I'm going to give y'all a twist on this you don't expect. Okay. It says, if they choose the path of perfection, they're made ready for translation. What does that mean? That means they're taken to the hall where they're put to sleep, probably just like, we go in for an operation and then they wake up on the first mansion world. There's no death and pain and death, right? That's the first point, right? So once they go through this, when they eventually get to paradise, they become permanent citizens of paradise. Yeah, they never get mustered into the core of finality. Why do you think that is? It's because all the pain and suffering and experience we have in this mortal life prepares us for the core of finality. And these children will not experience the evolutionary experience on a world, and that includes the pain and the suffering and the ridiculousness of how we run the world and all the stupid things we do and all this. So they won't have that experience, will they? So they can't be mustered into the core of finality because of this lack of experiential suffering, if you want to put it that way. Right.
That makes a lot of sense, that does make sense.
Yeah, that's why they're not mustered in the core of finality.
Yeah.
I
It
like the
says,
idea of staying on paradise.
It says
second, I'm confused.
deprived of the valuable and essential evolutionary experience.
That's right. They're deprived of that.
Yes.
Why are they deprived of that? Because they're on a perfect world. The Finaleter world is a perfect world. Okay, so they wouldn't have the experience they would have on a normal world. Of
Right.
all the crap that goes on in our world, all the crazy stuff.
They didn't get to live on the blue marble.
That's right. They
That's
didn't
right.
get yeah, so they just stay paradise citizens. They're not sent back out in the core of finality to help other worlds straighten themselves out, right?
It's not too bad when they call them little angels when they die very young.
Right. It's
Hmm.
not. It's not,
Yeah.
not at all.
Well, I'm confused.
Let me
Okay.
unconfuse you.
Nothing new, right?
Yeah.
Core of Finaleters, that's us.
Yes.
when
That's what we
pass
will
on.
become. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These children do not go on. They go on. How can they reach God? I mean, do they go?
Well, they go through the same ascension plan that we do. Okay, Gary. But when they meet God the Father and they attain paradise, they become citizens of paradise and stay citizens of paradise. We actually become citizens of paradise ourselves, don't we? When we attain God the Father, we become paradise citizens. We are not mustered into the core of finality until after we become paradise citizens.
Oh, okay. So we go, well, now you made me confused again. Okay, we die, we go
Yeah.
on, we're part of the core of Finaleters, right?
No, we don't
Basically-
become core of the Finaleters until we've ascended all the way to God the Father.
Okay, so we go on over to the next world, we become ascending mortals,
Ascending mortals, that's right.
and then we go to
Ascending Urantia, we become ascending Urantia next, right?
okay.
We go through 570 different changes as ascending Urantia. And then we become
Spiritual.
spiritual, and we become spiritual ascenders. Okay. Then when we get to paradise, when we actually go through Havona, all the billion worlds of Havona, we become paradise citizens after we stand before God the Father. Okay, then we become paradise citizens. And then when God the Father looks down upon you and says, well done, my good and faithful servant, you get mustered into the core of finality.
And then you go back out
Then you go back out to
into
serve
the
the
universe
universes. That's right.
And do
and
as well.
minister.
Doing what?
And
Helping.
then we do as well. We do as well.
Yeah, we do his will. We train all these other ascenders that's coming up and help them along their way and help administer the billions of worlds that's out there.
I'll be there when.
All right. That makes
Okay.
sense, Gary?
It's a long trip.
Yeah, it makes it clearer.
Okay. Well, good. I hope I unconfused you.
I'm exhausted.
I gotta tell you something. I'm a member of 2 groups,
Yeah.
but going slow like this and just taking a section of a paper at a time,
Yeah.
it really teaches you a lot.
Mhm.
It does, Gary. And that's why
see-
on this second time through, I wanted to do it this way. You know, if you just want to get through the papers fast, I have videos out for every single paper out there. You can get through the videos. You know, most of the papers, I didn't spend more than 2 hours getting through the whole paper. If you want to do it that way, you can, but you won't get the benefit of breaking down each and every paragraph like we did his. And everybody here, Melly, Bill, Rodney, except for Jane, my wife, and lots of people that comes to our meetings, all of these people have, a lot of them have been through the entire book with me all the way through, you know. So they got the benefit of the short version, but now they're getting the benefit of the long beating it to death version, which I think helps.
I like it better.
Yeah, I do too. You know, if
Me
it's
too.
kind of like a Bible study, if you think about it, you can
Yeah.
read through the Bible and you can get through it in a few months easily, you know. But if you really want to study it, you have to break it down by paragraphs. And that's why we do the book this way, right? Kind of the
Right.
same way, you know. So you can think of it as our Urantia Bible study, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
do. I really,
Yeah, I
I
do
do
too.
consider, I'll be honest with you, I consider the Urantia book my Bible. I
Yeah.
do that.
I do
Me
too.
Yeah.
too. It's my
Yeah.
study, and it is
Yeah.
spiritual work.
It is.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
to
Well,
me, I mean,
it takes intellectual stamina to stick with it, doesn't it? Because it's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
to think about,
Yeah.
you know, it really is. All right,
yeah,
well, let's close with a prayer tonight and get out of here, and we'll take it up again next week. I wanted to say something before we pray, though. I enjoyed just talking to y'all Tuesday. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time and stuff. So, you know, that was a good thing too. I really
Mhm.
think so too.
Yes.
Ditto.
Thank you
All
for
right.
that. Yeah,
Sure. Let's
Thank you,
see. Who
thank
wants
you.
to pray tonight? Jane, would you like to pray tonight?
sure.
Okay. You want to close us in a
Okay.
prayer?
Beloved Father, we give you thanks for the time that we have had to share, to learn more about your creation, your perfect creation in every sphere, in all of your creation. We thank you for Roger, we thank you for Diane, and we thank you for each and every one of us. And we ask that we tune in to the thought adjuster and to forever and every moment desire your will to be done in our lives. Help us that we may become fully willing to love and to always reflect the perfect love of Jesus, Michael of Nebadon. And forever we give you praise and thanks. Amen.
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 And thank you, all of you at home that come and join us each week. Please come see us again. We'll see you then.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Billy. Good to see you, Millie.